we are covering the fundamental government powers and land use controls for the California real estate exam. Even with the highest form of ownership, a fee-simple absolute estate, the government retains certain powers over your property. To remember these 4 powers, the exam loves the mnemonic P.E.T.E, which stands for police power, eminent domain, taxation, and Escheat. First is police power, which is the government's inherent right to create and enforce regulations to protect public health, safety, and general welfare. A common exam trap is confusing this with law enforcement. On the exam, think of police power as the basis for zoning laws, building codes, and licensing requirements for real estate agents. Next is eminent domain, which is the government's right to take private property for public use. The process of taking the property is called condemnation, and the government must pay just compensation to the owner. The exam will test you on this distinction. Eminent domain is the right, while condemnation is the action. Taxation is the power to charge property owners to pay for government services. Finally, Escheat is what happens when a property owner dies without a will and has no identifiable heirs. In this case, the property reverts to the state. These government powers, particularly police power, are the foundation for land use controls in California. The most important document for land use planning is the general plan. Think of it as the constitution for all physical development within a city or county. It's a long-term blueprint. All zoning ordinances must be consistent with the general plan. The exam will test this hierarchy. The general plan is the guiding document that zoning must follow. Zoning ordinances implement the general plan by dividing areas into specific districts like residential, commercial, and industrial. But what happens when a property doesn't fit the current zoning? If a property's use was legal before a zoning change made it illegal, it may be considered a legal nonconforming use, often called being grandfathered in. An exam trap to watch for is that this right can be lost if the use is abandoned or the structure is destroyed. A variance is an exception granted to a property owner to deviate from zoning rules due to a unique hardship, like an unusual lot shape that makes it impossible to meet setback requirements. This is different from a conditional use permit, or CUP, which allows a specific use that wouldn't otherwise be permitted because it serves the public interest, such as a school or a church in a residential zone. Finally, we have private land use controls, most commonly CC&Rs, which are covenants, conditions, and restrictions. These are private rules created by a developer or a homeowners association. The most critical exam question on this topic involves a conflict between zoning and CC&Rs. The rule is simple and absolute. The stricter of the 2 rules will always apply. If zoning allows you to build a 6-foot fence, but the CC&Rs for your subdivision only permit a 4-foot fence, you are bound by the more restrictive 4-foot limit. For free practice questions, AI-powered explanations, and more exam prep tools, visit openexamprep.com. That's openexamprep, all one word, .com.